Welcome, everyone, to the 40 in Tennessee podcast. I'm Josh, here with Houston and Randy. I've been recording. I was like, you know, I should find a spot to do an intro to get us going.
Oh, I didn't know you was yet.
Yeah, we got a guest on tonight. I don't know when we're going to be calling him in at the moment, but we have author.
Give me 1 second. I'll check and see if he's ready.
And field researcher Dewey Edwards. He has just published and released his newest book, which is tonight's topic, The Hopkinsville Goblin Incident. Do we have the title of his book?
10 Hours from Hell.
10 hours?
Or 10 Hours of Hell. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Houston, you watching anything good lately? Anything?
No, man, I ain't got nothing going on right now. Just babysitting. So I've been watching Little Bear and Mickey's Mouse Clubhouse. Which is probably what I've said the last month.
That's not bad content. Learning good morals.
Yeah.
My kids watch Little Bear. It's funny. How long has Little Bear been around? Good God.
Little Bear has been around a minute.
Yeah, I know it started with the books. I want to say 70s, but I may be wrong. I think the cartoon came out in the 90s, though.
Oh, okay. So it's
Is
been
that
around
what people
for
are seeing in the woods? Is Little Bear just walking around? How many people see a bear walk on their hind legs? Do they do that often? It's like it's one of the people say it's a Bigfoot sightings or bears are walking on their hind legs.
There was some interesting video I saw a couple of years ago of an armless bear. Like the front arms were missing completely. They thought it was a birth defect.
Oh, wow.
But this bear had made it to adulthood by walking on, completely on its back legs the entire time. And it was like, I mean, nothing but respect for that bear.
Yeah, you kid is the toughest bastard out there.
Yeah, that's the toughest bear I've ever seen.
Yeah, dang.
It's a black bear.
Do you remember? I don't know if we talked about it, but that footage of Bigfoot that was taken from the train?
Yes.
Was that ever debunked?
Yes, it was debunked. My understanding, it was debunked.
It was the sheriff, right? That's what it was.
I just know it was. What was that?
It was like the sheriff of the town, or something. It was somebody like in a position that did it. I'm pretty sure it was like I think it was the sheriff of the town.
Well, how's everybody doing?
Good. How are you, man?
Doing great. I've been doing a lot of research and working on another book.
You're always working on a book, aren't you?
So I got a lot going on.
That's awesome. That's what we want to talk to you about. Some of your books.
Yes.
All righty.
Yes.
Which one you want to start with? Or
Dewey, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, go ahead.
Here now. There we go. Let's see. So you want to talk about some of the books?
Why don't you introduce yourself first?
Yeah, that'd probably be the best thing to you.
Yeah.
My name is Dewey Edwards. I live in Springfield, Tennessee. Been married be 53 years this September.
Nice.
And I've got 3 daughters, 5 grandchildren. I do a lot of genealogy work. I'm a historian. I love to write. I'm working on my newest book now. I just got done with the 10 Hours of Hell, the little green men. And next I'm working on I wrote this book, back in about 2002, 2003. It was only 72 pages, and I have found a much more information. It is now grown to almost 150 pages so far. So
Oh wow.
rewriting that one. So that one's going to be called The Dark and Bloody Ground. It's about we had a man killed up in just north of Adams, right outside the Bellwitch Cave, actually, up close to it. He was killed, and they ended up lynching 10 men over it.
Oh, dang.
And I've been trying to trace the deeds and all and find the exact location of where this happened at for two reasons. I want to make some pictures there. It might be a good spot to go do some a paranormal investigation, so
Definitely.
that's one purpose of it. But my latest one I've had published is the 10 Hours of Hell.
Yeah.
The Little Green Men.
About the
My
Hopkinsville.
desk is a mess. I've got everything everywhere.
So the Hopkinsville incident is a pretty notorious case.
Yes, it was. It went actually almost worldwide. I mean, there were some reports coming out of Australia and everything else about it too, but it was pretty famous. I hate the way they did the family over that, but
what first drew you to that? Like, when was the first time you read about it?
I had heard about it. Oh gosh, probably 20 years ago, I guess. And I just didn't pay much attention to it. And we were in Hopkinsville one day. My wife's got had some people up there. They're buried in the cemetery there at Hopkinsville. And we were up there at the cemetery, and then we made a little ride up to Cali, which is 8 miles, 8 miles away from Hopkinsville. And I seen the signs there, they was talking about it. And they had the Little Green Man Festival there in Cali. And they had it for several years, and then the COVID hit, and they shut it down, and it never did get revived after that. Oh. We had one last year at Hopkinsville at the visitor center, but it wasn't like being there on site itself, So they had a little model of a flying saucer out in the middle of the field, and had a pretty good little setup. Had a lot of signs up and all. Luckily, I got to make a picture of it, and it's gone now. They scrapped it, they sold it and scrapped it out. So it was made out of just like barn roofing, and it looked like maybe a satellite dish turned upside down, maybe, or something, maybe, with metal roofing on it. It was neat, but I just hate they did away with it. We were going to LBL that day, and from Hopkinsville, and we just stopped by there and got it. Made pictures of it. It was raining that day. My feet got wet, and I was miserable the rest of the day.
Just like that family that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This took place. The encounter itself took place on a Sunday, August 21st, 1955. At the lady lived there. Her name was Glennie Mae Lankford. This was her second marriage. Her first marriage was to a Sutton. And in fact, they still call her Glennie Mae Sutton. But she had several children, and there was 2 of them was there when the encounter took place. There was Elmer, which they call Lucky. He had Lucky tattooed across his knuckles. I've got a picture that shows that real good. He left home at an early age and went to work for a carnival, and he didn't get to come home very often. And just so happened the day before, they were in Evansville, Indiana, which is not very far from Cali, about an hour's drive, I think they said. And he come home and visit family, Of course, Glennie Mae, his mother, she was very religious, and she didn't miss church for anything. She went to church that evening, and then when she came back, she fixed them a big supper. They're sitting there eating, and they got through eating, and they decided to play a game of cards. It wasn't much, wasn't much to do there. I mean, just by 1955, the house probably barely had electricity, probably, had outhouse out back, no running water, had a well out back. And anyway, they got through, they were playing cards, and one guy got Elmer brought down a couple of friends with him from the carnival. named Billy Ray Taylor and his wife, June. Lucky had his wife with him too, Vera. And I've been trying to find out who she is, do some research on her. But they traveled all over the United States with this carnival. So who knows where they got married at, if they even got married, And then, but they split up later on when he came back home. But anyway, they were got through with their card game, and Billy Ray went out to the well to get a bucket of fresh water out of the well. And while he was out there, he saw this looked kind of like a meteor come over. And they said it was throwing sparks off of it, and it had a weird look to it, and it landed in the field back behind them, back in the tree line back behind them. So he come back in the house and was telling them, what was going on. And they didn't believe him. So anyway, they heard this commotion outside. They went out back and they found this little man. Of course, later on they got the name Green, which it wasn't. They were silver gray.
That's what I was reading as well.
About 2 feet tall, and had big ears, like suction cup feet, and long arms with like claws on the end of their arms. And it was floating about a foot off the ground, coming toward him. And so they went with it. They had a shotgun. One had a pistol, one had a shotgun, and one had a rifle. Anyway, they got to shooting at this thing, and they would do a backflip, and then went back into the woods. Well, they went back in the house. They happened one or two of them came up to the house, and was peeping in the windows. They never tried to get in the house. They just looking into the windows, and they got to shooting at them. Of course, it was in August. No air conditioning. They had the windows up, and just had the window screens there. And they got to shooting at them through the windows, blowing holes in the window screens, and tearing the house up, pretty much, And it had been rough on their ears to be shooting a shotgun inside the house,
And they shot a lot of rounds too.
Yeah, I think Elmer said he ended up shooting 3 boxes up with a shotgun. Said John Charlie, his little brother, shot over 200 rounds of 22 at them.
That's
a lot of ammo. They would either do a backflip, or they would sound like a metallic ring when it hit them, like it was hitting metal, And anyway, they would just do a backflip and take off running, And so they got to look in the window. They'd shoot at one of them. They go outside to see if it hit anything, and couldn't find anything. Of course, one of the theories is they were owls. These are great horned owls, and but if you've ever shot any kind of a bird at all with a 12 gauge shotgun up fairly close, how are you gonna get some explosion?
Are they just gonna explode?
Yeah.
But they went outside and couldn't find anything. Couldn't find a thing. Yeah, exactly. And so they couldn't find anything. So this went on for a couple of 3 hours. And they finally decided, they went outside, looked at the coast was clear, and said, hey, let's go get some help. So they jump in the car. Of course, they up in Kelly. It's a little rural community. There's no police department or anything there. It's just barely a community. They have a post office and a train station. That's about it. So they jump in. I think there's 7 or 8 of them. They all jump in 2 cars and take off to Hopkinsville, to the nearest police station. And they go in and tell the guy at the desk, what's going on. Well, he don't believe them. They finally convinced him that something's going on. So he calls the police chief, and the police chief shows up, questions them. The police go back out there. Now, the only place I've ever found this was, everybody else says that the Suttons accompanied the police back out to the site where it happened at. They did not. The police were treating this as a murder scene. They thought they had a gunfight with one of their neighbors. So they treating this as a crime scene. They detained the Suttons there at the police station. They go out and check everything out. Then they walk over the ground, destroy all the evidence, all this kind of stuff, tromping everything down. And so then they decided there's nothing going on. So they radioed back to the police department and told them, we can't find anything. There's nothing going on here. So they were to have them come back out. Well, the men back out to the house. The women stayed there for a while, and the men was showing them what they had been seeing, what they'd been doing, and all. The only thing they found was a kind of oily-looking substance on the ground by the fence where one of them had been shot. It kind of had a little shimmer to it when the light hit it a certain way, and there was a greenish glow off in the woods, which they said was foxfire. I don't know if you ever seen foxfire or not. It's a fungus that grows on rotten wood.
Oh no,
And
I
it's
don't
not
think I
green;
know
it
about
glows orange like a fire. That's why they call it foxfire.
that. Ah,
So it's got a green. It's got. I've seen it before. It's a faint orangish glow to it. And it's pretty bright sometimes. And but anyway, this was green, which wouldn't have been foxfire at all. So anyway, they can't find anything. They pass it off as a hoax. Well, they leave that night and tell me they'd be back the next day to finish the investigation, which they didn't really. They went back to town and spread the words. All they did.
yeah.
So anyway, about 3:00 that morning, these little men come. While the cops are there, the little men are nowhere to be seen. They can't find anything. So about 3:00, after the police all have left, the little men come back to the windows again, and looking in the windows and all, where they shoot at them again, all this kind of stuff. And finally, and Miss Glennie, she's an older lady there, lives there. She looked out the window, and one of them just come up and looked at her almost right in her face. Just the window screen was all but separating them. And she fainted, but they finally got her to come back to her now. And while this was going on, she had 3 young children, Miss Glennie did. And they took them and put them in a back room of the house and kept them safe. And Billy Ray, the one that actually seen the saucer land, his wife June, she was so terrified. She went to the room and laid on a bed and buried her face in a pillow and didn't want to see anything. So anyway, about 3:00, these little things come back. Miss Glennie, they get her. She passes out, and they get her back and everything. And they stay up guarding the rest of the night. And the next morning, there's nothing there. There's nothing to be found. They can't find the spaceship or the little men or anything. So I've got a little theory on what happened there. But anyway, before I get into that, the next morning, I reckon word got out in Hopkinsville or whatever. Now, why they call it the Hopkinsville Goblin, I have no idea. It's actually it'd be the Kelly Goblins,
Kaylee
The only
Goblins.
thing Hopkinsville had to do with this was they sent police officers out there.
Oh,
And a couple
okay.
of county cops went there, and a couple of 3 people from Fort Campbell showed up, and maybe a state trooper or 2, But anyway, it had nothing to do with that's the only connection they had with Hopkinsville. And actually, Hopkinsville was out of their jurisdiction because it's 8 miles out of their city limits. So I don't know what they do. But anyway, next morning, all these sightseers come out and said the traffic was just bumper to bumper on that road, and they had to get the state out there to direct traffic and everything. And but people were trampling all over the property, finding all kind of souvenirs, going into people's houses, going into Glennie's house and picking up stuff, anything for a souvenir. Reporters were everywhere, people making pictures and everything, And they ended up trying to figure out somebody to keep them off the property. So they put up a sign, charging like a 50 cents admission to the property, And then to make pictures, it's like $1 or something like that, But they never made a dime off of this.
Yeah.
And it come out in the newspaper that they were doing it for profit. That's why they were doing it, to try to make money off of it. That's one of the theories. But like I said, people were everywhere, just tromping all over the property and everything. They couldn't get rid of them, and they camped out in the front yard, and left
People
trash
like
in the
aliens.
yard. It had to have been a big mess. No bathroom facilities, so you can imagine what the yard was like when they left.
Oh, Lord.
But anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So
I forget about that.
anyway, there were several. I've got a good theory on it myself. They had first said it was barred owls. Like I said, of course, you shoot one, you go out and find feathers or guts or something,
But
Then they said it was large cats.
when do large flocks of barn owls attack homes?
Exactly, yeah. And they say they will protect their nest, but why just this one night?
I feel like one gunshot would scare them all off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Especially with a shotgun.
yeah.
And if somebody said they were playing a prank on them, whatever, well, the first gunshot went off, the prank would have been over. You get gone.
Exactly.
They said it could have been large cats, house cats, could have been dogs.
Well, this
They
is
even
why
said
I
some
always tell
monkeys
people,
escaped
like,
from a circus train.
oh yeah,
I mean,
monkeys. It was a monkeys theory too.
Yeah, there was a circus train that actually left. They say it left Springfield and come up through Hopkinsville and up into Kelly, going north. I disproved that. The circus was in town in Springfield that day, but they went south. They didn't go north. So I did find that out. So that was wrong. But that ruled out the monkey theory. It was cat. And they said they did it for profit.
Yeah.
They didn't have the house was a rental house. They didn't own the house. It was a rental. Actually, a sharecropping. They
got more
they
harassment than
damaged
anything.
the house. They got to repair it. So it took so it wasn't done that. And then they said they were drunks. They were all drunk. Miss Glennie was very religious.
Didn't the investigation draw that what they saw was not an alcohol-induced incident? They said that yes, there was drinking, but it wasn't the cause of what happened.
The police said that there was no sign of any alcohol. They didn't smell it. There was no sign of them drinking at all. So
oh, gotcha.
The police ruled that out. What I think happened, my theory is, of course, they said they were drunk and everything. Excuse me. But my theory was, of course, Fort Campbell at that time, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, is only 20 miles from Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, Fort Campbell had 2/3 of the nation's nuclear weapons stored there. Not everybody knows that.
No, I didn't know that.
They had an area they built called the Bird Cage. And there was three underground bunkers. Mm-hmm. One of them was used to store the weapons in. One was used to modify and do maintenance on the weapons. And the third one was a medical facility in case of a leakage or exposure. They could treat everybody down there in the bunker. But anyway, what do you usually see when you over a nuclear facility?
A lot of UFOs.
UFOs. And known. So anyway, my theory is that this little spaceship with these, I don't know how many of this thing was in it. They only seen 2 at a time. That's all they ever seen was 2 at a time. I don't know if it was the same 2 each time or if the 2 replaced 2 more. I have no idea. But they said some reports set up maybe 15 of them in this little ship.
Oh wow!
Of course, they called it a flying bathtub and all kind of stuff in the papers. But anyway, so this little ship is flying either to Fort Campbell or away from Fort Campbell on a reconnaissance mission to check out this nuclear deal,
Mm-hmm.
So something happened between Fort Campbell and the Sutton farm. They had to land this craft. I'm thinking maybe their cloaking maybe went out because that's the first time the only time they were seen was when they landed there on the farm. So anyway, they had to land to make repairs on the ship. They didn't think they'd been seen, but they realized then that they'd been seen by this Billy Ray Taylor had seen them. So they sent a couple out to keep the family busy while the rest of them were trying to make these repairs. And this is just my theory. Now, I haven't proved any of this, but it makes a little sense as any of the rest of them do. It's better than the monkey theory.
Yeah.
Anyway, they land, send 2 up to keep the family busy, and those are making repair on the ship. Well, when the family left, when the little men was out of sight, the family left to go to Hoptown to get the police. They were the other ones. They went back to the ship and helped. And while the police were there, the men didn't come back out at all. Then when the Suttons came back home, the little men came back out again. I guess to make sure they were, still keeping them busy. And
They didn't
sometime
like the
during
Suttons.
that night or before daylight, this little spaceship got fixed and they're up and gone. Now, one lady said she did see something that like red streak across the sky about dawn that morning. Of course, this was during the meteorite season too, so
Mhm.
in August. So, that's that was another theory they had too, was the meteorite he'd seen, called a bolide or whatever. But that's my theory. They seen something. I believe them 100%. They seen something. Now, I was talking to L.W. Marshall a few minutes ago, and he mentioned that maybe they wasn't the little green men. It was actually maybe like drones or maybe little robots that they had sent out. So I hadn't even thought about that angle.
Yeah.
But that's pretty neat. That's why they were floating off the ground, or drones maybe, and metallic.
Using tech that was way beyond its time or our time at that moment.
Yeah, yeah, but maybe not beyond their. I don't know. If they had a spaceship to fly, I guess they could have drones. I guess.
Yeah, right. There was I had read something that when they first encountered these goblins, that they came out with their hands up though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The first one came out and had his hands up like like we come in peace or
Yeah.
surrender or whatever. Don't shoot me, and
And then they shot him.
And they
yeah,
just shot.
then they shot him. Yeah, yeah, they shot him. Yeah.
I mean, what do
And
you do
I
in
think-
that situation? I can imagine these guys being like,
I
"What?"
think what got the Suttons to shooting at him, I think, was one of the dogs had run underneath the house,
Mm.
and were whimpering and carrying on, and I think that may have scared them to think, hey, something is going on here,
Something's wrong.
But I went through all the old newspaper articles I could find, and researching this, and I only found one of them that was actually a good, respectable article. And there was a guy that lived there in Hopkinsville, and he went there to the scene and talked to Miss Glennie and her youngest daughter. The rest of them had already gone back to work at the carnival. And but he was very respectful. He says he believes they did see something, and what they seen he didn't know, but he was very respectable, of the whole thing, But the family got all kind of ridicule. I mean, every newspaper article you read was just pitiful. I mean, it almost make you cry to read them. They said they were drunk, they were imbeciles, country bumpkins, and just,
Mhm.
you know,
They say that
I met a couple of Lucky Suttons. Well, I met three of his children at the Little Green Men Festival last year in Hopkinsville, and I made good friends with them. In fact, I got them to sign that page in my book, Eye in the Sky. I got them, while I was talking about that, I got them to sign that page for me in the book. I
that's
got
awesome.
the autograph in it. But yeah, she says if you could see the look in her daddy's eye when he told her about this, he let it slip out. They were sitting there talking to somebody, and in the family or something, and it slipped out or something. He wasn't going to tell them, and it slipped out, and she made him tell the story of it, And she said, if you could have seen the look on his face and the look in his eye, you'd know he was telling the truth. It wasn't made up, And he kept the same story his whole life. He didn't change anything up, So he's a very believable.
And then also with that, it's like you said, they didn't make any money off of it. Maybe in the beginning when they were charging some admission in the beginning, but it more led to more harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also my other thing is that's a wild story to come up with as a group.
Yes.
And then also stick to it as a group, just one night. You know what we're gonna do? Aliens, alien invasion. We're gonna.
Yeah, let's come up with this alien invasion and make us a bunch of money.
And we're gonna get grandma in on it too.
Yes. But I researched all the papers. Like I said, they just treat them terrible.
Yeah.
In fact, my first book, when I first did, I made not photocopies, but screenshots of all the newspaper articles. And then I went in and typed it out in text, what they said, because some of them you couldn't read,
Mhm.
I thought, well, they're all in the public domain. But then I get to checking, they're still under copyright. They're not old enough to be under the public domain. So I had to
Oh.
go in, take all the pictures out, all the newspaper pictures, articles I had, and take those out. And I just reworded each one of the articles, paraphrased each one of them,
Mhm.
put it in my own language, So I mean, putting the same information out there, it's just in my own language instead of theirs. So
Yeah.
I got around the copyrights that way on it,
Yeah, you
Not to
still
get in
you get
trouble.
to tell your story about it, which is the goal. How long did it take you to write 10 Hours in Hell? Like when were you like, I'm
Oh,
gonna do this? When did it become like I need to do a book on this one?
uh, I had some of it was already researched when I did my book on the Eye in the Sky.
Mhm.
I think that's the one I give you down there at Burns, I think, Randy, was that Eye in the Sky book.
Yes, sir. Yep.
I think it was. Anyway, I already had a lot of it already worked out. So I was able to go in and just take that and start from that and just expound on that, But like I said, I had a lot of hours in it as far as researching it, and copying, newspapers and um, just things like that, talking to the family. Geraldine, um, one of Lucky's daughters, she sent me two of her books. She's rewriting it. She's doing a third version of it, and she's going to unpublish the first two. So I told her I wanted to buy a couple of them before she unpublished them, where I'd have them in my library.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
a few days later, I got two of them in the mail. So she mailed
Nice.
them to me. So that was real nice. I was going to be at the um, at their Goblin Con. They're not going to have the little festival anymore. It's going to be called Goblin Con now,
Goblin
and,
Con.
it's Goblin Con, and it's I think it's done in August. No, not August. I forgot when it is now, but anyway, I was on the organizing committee of that, and the and we had a couple, three Zoom meetings and stuff, But I was telling Joe and Jesse about it, Hell Bent Holler, and they were talking about going. And then she sent me a text back and she said, "Holy crap!" So did you see? Have you looked at the restrictions on that about attending? You can
Oh.
go to the White House with less security than that.
Oh.
I mean, everything but a body cavity search.
Dang.
They had that by now, And I told them, "Hey, I'm not going to submit myself to all this. I'm going in I was going to be a speaker.
Mhm.
They provide you your food, the hotel, and everything, And I got to read all that. And I thought, that's overboard. It's way too over. I trust me. Security is great. I mean, you can't go be too, but in this case, it was. So,
Mm.
I told him, I said, just never mind. Just count me out on this one. I may attend as may go up there one day, but I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to partake in that part of it. So
Mm.
anyway, I reckon it was the lady over the Visit Hopkinsville. I think is the one that come up with all these regulations. But no backpacks, no boxes, and what you did carrying had to be inspected. So it's
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah, here.
I've
a
been to
lot.
several conventions and they had nothing like that before. Maybe a metal detector. It's but
Yeah, they're covering
I knew
themselves.
they wouldn't
Yeah.
allow any weapons in there.
So Dewey, what was like one of your first experiences with? Was it with like a UFO? Did you have like a paranormal experience? Like what kind of set you on this path into researching and writing about this stuff?
As far as the writing goes, my father had told me years and years ago that his grandfather had killed his brother-in-law, but he didn't know know much about it, and so I got to kind of doing some research on that, and I was going through the county court criminal books at the archives looking for this, trying to find it. I finally did find it. It was he did kill his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law actually took which had been my grandfather's sister, put her on my great grandfather's sister, and put her and her 2 children on a brush pile and was going to burn them up.
Oh, wow.
He happened to hear them screaming, and he lived close by. He'd run up there with his shotgun and run the guy off and got them off the fire. So he went back to the guy's house, and when it was going to wait for him to come back, well, he put his shotgun down behind the door and waited for the guy to come in. Well, the guy finally showed up, come on the porch, opened the door up. My grandfather reached behind the door, and instead of grabbing his shotgun, there's a hoe handle back there, a wooden hoe handle. So he beats him to death with it.
Whoa.
They arrested him for it. He got out of it, circumstances or whatever. He got out of it. It cost him, the lawyers charged him so much, it cost him, he had a big farm, cost him his farm and about everything he had just about to get out of it, but he got out of it. But anyway, while I was going through these books, I thought, this is interesting. It's some neat stuff here. I got to making me some notes,
Mm-hmm.
And probably 20 years later, I've got enough notes and all that I put together and come out with a book. And it's the first book I've written. It's called Execution of Murder. It covers the murders of Robertson County, 1810 through 1910. And it's got some real good cases in it.
Oh,
In
wow.
fact, the new book I'm working on will come out of that one too, because it's one of the big, it was a lynching of 10 men that went worldwide. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so it put Adams, Tennessee on the map, actually probably more than the Bellwitch did,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, that's how I got started with that. And as far as the paranormal part of it, I had my first paranormal experience at 6 years old. My uncle had got killed on a tractor on the farm. And that next fall, the next summer, my cousin and a few more of them come over and helped Daddy with the tobacco crop. That's what my uncle done. He was the farmer. So they come over. And one of them named Pete, he didn't bring a hat with him. And it was hot that day. Sun was out bright. And Mama told me, says, she's out there in the tobacco patch with everybody else. She said, run up the house and get Uncle John's hat. He's the one who got killed on a tractor. Get Uncle John's hat and let Pete wear it to keep, get his head sunburned, So I run up to the house, probably maybe 100 yards away. And I'll open the door and walk in this little house that has got it's got a living room / bedroom. Then it's got a little hallway with a closet in it, and then a kitchen and another bedroom. That's it. It's a four-room house. So anyway, I'll go open the closet door up, reach in for that hat, and the door slams shut while I'm, I get my arm snatched back out of it. There wasn't any wind blowing or anything. It was hot and dry that day. No wind blowing. So, something closed it. I'll grab the door and pull it up again. And this time it slammed shut on my arm. I mean, there wasn't any wind or anything, And it bruised my arm up pretty good. So I just left the hat in there and went and told Mama. I said, tell Pete if he wants that hat, let him go get it himself, Anyway, that was my first paranormal experience with that, I appreciate it was Uncle John keeping me from letting Pete wear that hat.
Yeah.
He loved that old hat, that old brown gray felt hat. So anyway, the next thing I had, I seen my first full body apparition when I was 11 years old. We lived in an old house outside of Cedar Hill, and was in their bed one night. It was in the wintertime. Old house had 2 or 3 old coal grates, built in it, and it had one in the living room and one on the back bedroom behind it, backed into each other. And then the kitchen had just a flue in there with an old potbelly stove, warm morning stove, in there. And there wasn't any more heat in the house before our room was back to the extension off the kitchen, didn't have any heat in it. And so in the wintertime, we'd sleep, me and my brother would sleep in the same bed to help keep warm,
Mm-hmm.
So I was laying there one night, and something woke me up for some reason. I woke up and looked, and there's a girl standing there, a young girl standing there, and she's there at the window. The window is open like this, it's open. like this, and the curtains are blowing in the wind, the breeze, and wind. Her hair is doing the same thing, blowing in the wind, and so is this gown she's wearing, like a house coat of a gown of thing, you know. But you can see it. It's all like smoke. You can see through everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at it, you know, am I seeing this? I thought, well, my sister's bedroom was another room up from us, and I thought, well, it's not her. My sister, she's a pretty good sized girl, you know. And the I woke my brother up, you know, and he looked over and he saw her, you know, and he threw his head under the cover, you know. And I tried to scream for daddy, but my heart was right here, you know, I couldn't say a word. So anyway, we finally went off to sleep. And she finally, I guess, left or whatever. We looked back and she was gone. But the next morning, we said something to daddy about it. Well, he had to get up and build the fires before we get ready to go to school. Things get the house warm. So we said something about it, you know, and didn't say much more about it. Of course, Daddy was a Baptist preacher. He didn't really believe much in the paranormal or to hear him talk, tell about it. But, you know, this great gulf fixed and all this kind of stuff, you know, the ghost can't come around and all that kind of stuff. But then later on, he told me about all this stuff he's seen as a kid, you know. The man walked up the house, full beard and all this kind of stuff, you know. And they'd shoot at him with a shotgun, he'd disappear, all this kind of stuff, you know. So that told me there he did believe in the stuff. But anyway, the landlord came up there a day or two later, you know, to feed his cattle in there at the barn. And we just sat and walked down there. I think Daddy may have paid him the rent while we was down there or whatever. But anyway, Daddy asked him, said, "Do you think ever happened in that house?" Well, the only thing I can remember was when I was a little boy, we lived there. And he said, he caught on fire one day. He said, I was too little. I was just a little kid. He says, they wouldn't let me go back there and help fight the fire. But they had to draw the water out of the cistern. There's a big brick cistern in front of the house. I mean, a big, deep joker. And he said he helped draw the water out of the well, out of the cistern. And he'd pass the buckets off, and his uncle and his daddy, whatever, you know, trying to get the fire out. Well, they finally got the fire out. The whole back end of the house had burned off. And he said, my aunt burned up in that house. So the back part of the house had been rebuilt. The bad part about seeing this apparition or whatever was the window that was there. It was a ghost too. There was no window there at all in that house.
Oh,
there
what?
was not even a window there. So evidently we witnessed a residual haunting, evidently, is all I can figure out. So anyway, I talked to people that lived there before we did and after we did. The house is gone now. It finally fell in, but it's gone now. But there's several people lived in after we did and much before we did, and nobody ever had never seen a thing and nothing going in that house at all. So evidently we must have been there on the anniversary of that fire. That's all I can figure out, you know. That's all I can figure out. But that was what really got me started in the paranormal. You know?
Yeah.
We used to get out and do some ghost hunting a little bit. Me and friends would get out, you know, and mainly get out and ride around and look for ghosts and drink a few beers, you know.
Yeah. When did you really start taking it serious, though?
I'm going to say probably about 2005 is when I really started taking it really serious. I had a stroke at work one day, like I died. They got me to the hospital just in time. They got me in the hospital a few minutes after I had it. Just happened, a friend of mine he was there with me when it happened. And he went and told the supervisor. Of course, I was an electrician, the electrical supervisor there where I was at. But the mechanical supervisor, he went and told him, we need to call an ambulance, you know, something wrong, you know. And then he tells us, no, let's wait till we had our own medical crew. You had nurses and all that kind of stuff there anyway. And he said, just wait till the medical gets here and we'll send him to medical and let him check him out, you know. And Trent says, ain't gonna happen. And then the supervisor said, well, if you call 911, I'll fire you. And he said, well, you can go ahead and fire me right now because I'm calling. He stepped outside, got his cell phone, called them, and they were there in a few minutes, got me to the hospital. In the meantime, he called my wife. She was able to get there within that golden hour, and they gave me this vampire bat serum. It dissolved the blood clot. Yeah.
Okay.
But they can only administer it within 1 hour of the
Of it
stroke.
happening.
It's like, and the first time they said a spot on my brain was as big as a grapefruit. The next day it was down. After giving me this stuff, it was down to the size of a golf ball.
Whoa.
And I actually got fully recovered from it. But since that day, I don't know if I call it near death or what, you know.
Yeah.
But I've been more in tune to it, and I've seen a lot of things, you know, a lot more things since then, you know, than I have ever have, you know. We've got three spirits live here in the house with us. A man and woman that built the house, and some little girl. I have no idea who she is, but she's vocal. We hear her talk all the time. Not all the time, but every little while she'll call one of her name, you know. And they can imitate my wife's name, my wife's voice, and mine. And they'll call me. I thought she's calling at me. I go, so what do you want? Well, I didn't say nothing, you know.
Oh.
It happens both ways. I mean, you know, it's weird. We were there it was probably it's probably within the time range of my stroke, probably within a couple, 3 months of it. I was laying on the couch in the living room watching TV. Well, start with the morning, I was sitting at my computer right where I'm sitting right now. I hear this girl's voice say, "Mama," you know. But you know, the direction it come from, the garage was there, but there wasn't no way nobody get in because the door was down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't pay any attention. And then a few minutes later, I hear, "Mama," in that tone of voice, you know, more desperate, you know. And I just said, "What do you want?" You know, and never got a response back. That was it. So I told my wife about it. And later on that evening, I was alone on the couch watching TV. She woke me up and said, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "No, I was asleep. I didn't hear anything." "You didn't hear that little girl?" And I said, "It's the same one I heard before, you reckon?" She says, "I don't know, but she says, she said, can't you see us? We're alive, you know."
Whoa.
And so
Whoa.
I didn't hear her say it, but my wife did.
That's creepy.
And we've been hearing her every once in a while. We'll say the old lady in the house most of the time that lived here. She'll go from where our bathroom is now, through the hallway, through the pantry wall, and into the other bedroom behind it. And I found out from the girl that lived next door to us, it was her mother and father, that when she lived here, just a guy down the road bought the house and remodeled it before we bought it, you know, a lot of work on it. And where our bathroom is now was their kitchen at the time. And the hallway was just a little hallway between the living room, you know, and the other room. And the pantry wasn't there. It was just a wall there in the other room. So she's actually coming from her kitchen across the hallway and into where their bedroom was at, you know. So, but I had I bought a ghost box, the SB7 ghost box, and a spirit box. And I played around a little bit, you know. I didn't. They say not to use them in your house, you know. But I was just tinkering with it.
Yeah.
It come with a little bit like a golf ball speaker, you know.
Then again, they're already there with you, so I mean.
It had a little speaker. I didn't like the speaker, so I ordered me a couple of amplified speakers to put in. I wanted something flat I could lay a microphone on. The earlier ones, you have to have a separate recorder. The new ones will record for you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I was trying to use speakers out, and I had them cranked up, you know. And the wife come in. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "It was because it's going, you know, the noise it makes." And I said, "I'm just playing with this spirit box." She said, "What, are you getting anything?" I said, "Well, no, they're not responding to me at all. Just everything's quiet." "Well, let me try it." So she picked it up, and first thing she asked was, "Is anybody here with us today?" You know. And this voice says, "P." Man's voice said, "P." And she says, "P." Then it said, "We." Pee Wee was the guy that owned my house when it died where I was singing. And he died in my living room in there on the floor, fell out of the recliner with a heart attack and died right there where I was sitting at. Pee Wee Fincher was the guy's name. And anyway, she says, "Well, Pee Wee," says, are you mad at what we're doing with the house and remodel? We're still doing some more remodeling work. And he says, no. And she said, well, do you like what we're doing with the house? And he said, yes, you know. And she said, well, who else is there with you? Anybody else there with you? And this little cat's voice went, meow, real faint, barely could hear it.
Ghost cat?
Which we had our cat had got outside one time in its life. It'd been a house cat all its life. It wanted to get out one day. It sat on the porch. It went out in the yard. The neighbor's dog happened to come by and grabbed it and killed it. You know, well, she took it to the vet. It died on the way to the vet. But anyway, that tore me up. I've dug a grave. And I cried like a baby. But anyway, she said his name was Pootie. And she says, Pootie, is that you? And it went meow a little bit louder, you know. She said, oh, come on, you can do better than that for Mama, can't you? And it went meow real loud. Hair on my arm stood up. She got to crying. I turned that joker off and didn't turn it back on for a long time.
You're like, it's not fun anymore. It's
But it
not
was,
fun anymore.
yeah. But that's when most of my paranormal experiences started. It was after my stroke, which I think it was. I come real close to dying, you know. And,
Yeah.
you know, in fact, I did get one of the effects I had out of it was my left foot is a little bit numb. Around my toes, it's still like it's asleep, you know. But everything else, I gained full motion back and everything, you know. So it took a lot of physical therapy, a lot of determination, but I was determined it wasn't going to get me. You know?
That's good.
Well, happy you didn't.
Definitely.
Would have been able to bring all these awesome books to the world, you know?
The next one I did was the Bellwitch book.
Yeah, talk
second
to us a
book
little
I
bit about
published.
that one. We tried to do a podcast about it. I don't know if it went that well. We
we didn't know as much about the Bellwitch as we thought we did.
yeah, it was a very Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on it. They of course the guy that used to own the Bellwitch Cave, he was my cousin. You know.
Really?
I'd heard him talk a little bit about it. You know, of course he sold it later on and passed away.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things. He had two sons, and a lot of that stuff was rigged up in the cave. The Indian grave they say was in there, and with the skeleton and all that kind of stuff. They built that box grave and put that skeleton in. They dug it up out of a field.
Really?
Put it in there. They told me that for a fact.
Practical effects.
The guy that did it told me he did it. But it was to help get, you know, the cave wasn't very popular back then, you know. And anyway, a lot of things led up to the Bellwitch. In 1811, a great comet appeared in the sky. Everybody took it as a bad omen, something bad to come. And sure enough, in December of that 1811, we had the earthquake. Caused Reelfoot Lake, Mississippi River backwards, you know.
Yep.
Ringing church bells all the way to Boston, Massachusetts.
Yep.
At the time, it was the largest earthquake that ever hit the continental United States. I think it was, somebody said it ranged over a 9, maybe edge of a 10, maybe.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
But it was felt all over the country. New Madrid, Missouri. Well, Madrid, Missouri disappeared. The new Madrid was built further over from the site, but it completely vanished. It sank in the ground.
Really?
Yeah.
A whole town?
Soil
town.
liquefaction.
Oh my God.
There's a bunch of trees along the Mississippi River that got uprooted. And I guess when the river went one direction, you know, and then when it came back, it flipped them upside down. And a lot of the trees are there with the roots sticking up out of the ground now. And they're called sawyers. That's what they call them. That's where Tom Sawyer picked his name from. A little bit of history there. But anyway, after the earthquake, we had the, 1811, 1812. Then we had the volcano erupted in Indonesia and spewed millions of metric tons of ash into the air, blocked out the sun. Millions of people worldwide died because they either starved to death or, you know, anyway, all the crops died, animals died. It just made a big mess, you know. And by blocking out the sun, it caused the year of 1816 to be the year without a summer.
Mhm.
And we had ice and snow on the ground in June and July that year, And then we had the Great Revival after that and all that kind of stuff, And then 1817 was when the Bellwitch appeared. So it's everything was all in a state of confusion, I guess, or whatever, But some say she was brought on as a poltergeist. Betsy Bell had brought her on as a poltergeist to defend her against her daddy, the incest, all that kind of stuff. In fact, the movie American Haunting
Is about that
was
story,
based
right?
on that. And I did a little part of that. I did some advertising work for them. I was up at Adams one day and just doing some investigation in the old schoolhouse up there. Had my uniform and stuff, ghost hunting uniform and stuff on. And these couple of girls come walking up and wanted to know if they could interview me. And they were working through American Haunting,
Oh.
So we were standing there talking, and they wanted to do a little film segment, a little B-roll, I guess. They was talking to me, and on my phone, I got the Ghostbuster theme is my ringtone on my phone. My wife calls me, So we're standing there talking. All of a sudden, the phone goes off playing Ghostbusters, One of them hollers, "Who you gonna call?"
Dewey Edwards.
Anyway, it ended up being. It didn't get into the movie, but it's in their extra on the DVD. It's in the extra features on the DVD. They put that in there.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
Cool.
pretty. They sent me. I got a poster here somewhere that they sent me. I was hoping it'd be signed, but it wasn't. But I don't agree with their. There's another book come out, All That Lives, I think was the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying the same thing. It was incest and all this kind of stuff, The Bell family knew them. Of course, they're well known in our county.
Mm-hmm.
And they convinced the theater owner not to show it in Springfield, and they didn't. Out of respect for the family, they didn't show it in Springfield. We went to Nashville and watched it, over at Rivergate and watched it, but it was it's pretty fun.
It was a good movie. It was a good movie. It was well done.
There's been several books on the Bellwitch, but
and the most part, people don't. No one knows the identity of this entity. They don't know
I
where
had
it came
people come
from.
up and ask me, says, "Where's the Bellwitch buried at?" Well, it's a spirit. She never died.
Yeah.
It was a disembodied voice. How do you But they say, she could have. I don't have much truth in this. It may be all fake. I have no idea. This book was written by one of the youngest Bell members for the purpose of selling it to a newspaper publisher by the name of Martin Van Buren Ingram out of Clarksville. It couldn't be released until the last Bell member, the immediate, had died. And but and it was only written. It was written 40 years after the fact, and then sold to him. So who knows? It may be true. It may be all bull. I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody I know around it can. We did find a few mentions of it in some older newspapers. Back before them, just very little. Andrew Jackson was supposed to have went there and had some issues with her. She's locked his wagon wheels up or carriage wheels up, where he couldn't go any further, and he had a witch hunter with him, and all this kind of good stuff. And
to be a witch hunter.
We did a documentary on it. If you ever get a chance to watch it, it's on a guy named Zach Adams out of Nashville, Skydive Films. It's it's about 45 minutes long. It's on YouTube. The thumbnail is like a picture of the Holy Bible. It's got like an old Bible with a cross on it. That's the thumbnail, but it's a good watch. I got several parts in it, and several of my friends, and even some of the Bell descendants are in it too. So it turned out pretty good.
Oh, nice.
But that road that Andrew Jackson was supposed to have been on, he got his wheels locked up. I've been on it. I've been to the John Bell Cemetery several times. It's kind of hard to get in. It's protected. It's a part of the Bell Trust, and you have to know somebody to get permission and go back there. And I've got several friends that are on the trust, and all I got to do is give one of them a call, and I go back there. One of them has got trail cams all over the place. So if somebody goes steps on the property, he gets a notification on his cell phone immediately, and he's usually there in a few minutes. So I always call.
This team's dealt with that type of security.
We'll be back there. So I want to let you know. I took a guy back there a while back, Rick Revel, out of Paris, Tennessee, and we did a little short documentary, a little small one. But we went up there to the cabin behind the old school and had a little conversation. We talked, filmed it, and everything went great. Went from there to the John Bell Cemetery, and we did nothing more to work. He's got these wireless mics that, the frequencies kept changing on them. You couldn't, they wouldn't communicate with each other. And we'd get one working, another one would quit, and just kept on and kept on. And he had me, you stay in the position, I'm going to put with this microphone, and when it comes on, we'll get this going, So you stay where you're at. Get ready. My walking stick, there's a big old dead tree there right beside John Bell's gravestone. And I hit it with a walking stick, and it made a heck of a noise, thud. I mean, it was loud. And by the time I'd done that, we hear this whoop, 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 comes out of the woods back behind us over there,
Really?
Where the cave is in that direction, And he looked at me, I looked at him. He said, "What was that?" And I said, "I don't know, but I don't think I'm going to find out right now."
Yeah.
So
May not be a Bellwitch.
Yeah. So he says, "What?" He says, "Well, it's working right now. Let's get it." So we got it working. Everything worked fine, worked good and everything. I was on my little side by side, so we got everything loaded up. Went back over to the cave. Wanted to go into the cave and do a little conversation there, but they were closed that day. So we just stood there by the entrance of the gate and with a sign and filmed the rest of it there, But it turned out pretty good. I took Elijah Henderson over there, showed him where the old home place was at, and the old well and everything is still there. He's leaning over in a well looking, dropped a real good pair of sunglasses off me, and I said, "I ain't going after him."
Wonder how many sunglasses are
They're
down
there. Kate claimed them.
Yeah, those aren't yours anymore.
Kate's looking stylish.
That's incredible. Dewey, where can people find your books?
Do what?
Where can people who are listening find your books?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're on Amazon. Just do a search on my name,
Dewey Edwards.
Right, and I've got some here at the house. If somebody wants an autographed copy, signed copy, or whatever, I can send them one here from my house. It only costs like I think $5 extra, for the
autograph,
the postage.
Yeah.
I ship them out media mail, so they're insured and everything when they go out. That's where I'd prefer to do them that way. It's more of a personal touch, that way.
No, I agree.
I keep copies of all of them here at the house. We're having and it's in the third week in July, I believe. It's about the 16th, 17th, somewhere along in there of July. Is the Kentucky Tennessee Thresherman Show up in Adams, and it's one of the biggest things they have in Adams now. But if you like old steam engines and old tractors and things like that, they actually thresh wheat there and everything, and using the old wheat threshers.
Oh, really?
And I'm usually set up there in the gymnasium with my table, and I sell my books. For years, I was outside. I sold yard art and my books and stuff, and sitting outside. It's hot. It's usually the hottest week of the year.
Yeah, it's July.
And you paid something like $40 or $50, for the booth for 3 days, and then you had to pay extra if you needed an electrical outlet to plug a fan in or something, So anyway, I've done that for several times. I got this great big old round fan I carried up there with me, and it was the biggest crowd drawer I ever seen. People come in to get cool, They usually buy something when they were there.
See? Yeah. But, smart marketing.
I got to talking to the guy that's over the craft part of it, and I said, how much is a booth inside in an air-conditioned gymnasium?
It's like
He
10 bucks
says,
more.
$50. I said, I'm going to pay 40 plus 10 for an outlet out here in the heat and everything. And I can be inside and don't have to worry about rain or anything. Be in the cool, dry,
Yeah.
with electrical, for the same price. So I ain't back outside since. I've been inside the gymnasium ever since. So I've already got my booth reserved for this coming year too. So
That sounds like a good
get
time.
a few more books ordered. That's why I want to get my latest book published before then. The Dark and Bloody Ground, about the murder. It happened just probably right across the river from the Bellwitch Cave, probably another mile or two up the road where it happened at, So it's in fact one of the Bell slaves was the one that committed the murder.
Oh, really?
It all kind of all ties back in together, back into Adams,
Yeah.
But
when do you plan on trying to publish that book?
Hopefully, maybe next month.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, like I said, it started out to be a 72-page book. I rewrote it, and now it's 100 and probably gonna be close to 150 pages before I get done with it. So
okay.
I've got a subscription to newspapers.com and found out a bunch of it. That was worldwide. I mean, all I had access to before was just local papers from Clarksville, stuff like that. That covered it because it's so close to the Montgomery County line, and they covered a lot of it, the trial and stuff, But I have found so much more stuff that it took place that they didn't cover, and the one weird part I thought was kind of odd was during these initial, this went into 2 separate lynchings. They lynched 2 of them the night they put them in jail, and then then they put the rest of them in jail in Nashville where they'd be protected, and bring them back forth to Springfield for trial and take them right back, But anyway, they during this the first lynching, they broke them out of jail and took them out. That's why I'm working on these land deeds now. I want to find the exact spot where this happened at. And they took them out and lynched them by the railroad track. And one of the horses either smelt blood or sensed death or whatever, like some of them can do, and went berserk. It took off running, and got up on the railroad track, actually, run down the track, and there was a train coming from Nashville and come up behind the horse, and the horse was keeping ahead of the train, actually, till it slipped and fell and broke its neck. Then they had to drag it off the track, let the train get by, I thought that was kind of odd, I'd heard of animals doing that, can sense, death or whatever, but that's the first time I'd ever, the count of that,
Yeah.
But when they was breaking this out of jail, was the jail they broke them out of later became the old Robertson County Hospital, which was a hospital I was born in.
Oh, wow.
So I was born in jail, actually.
You were born in jail.
My mother said when I went in, when we went in, well, she went in to have me, that there wasn't an elevator in the building. It had stairs. So said 2 orderlies put her in a ladder back chair, and packed her up the steps, and then I was born a few minutes later, But they tore it all. I wish they'd kept that building. They tore it down, but the cells were stacked along the back wall. I thought they just along the back wall, maybe. They had some on top of the cells on top of another one. And one guy was up there. He was in jail for attempted murder for shooting this woman that refused to marry him. And,
Whoa.
yeah, for some reason, this lynch mob headed out for him. I think some of the lynch mob members may have been some of her family, maybe, Anyway, they couldn't get to him. They had to have a ladder to get up to his cell, because he's on the top stack. And they finally tried to get right to him, but he had a chair he had broken up and was using the chair leg for a club. every time I'd reach into his sail, he'd hit them with it. They couldn't see what he was doing because it was dark in there. All they had was a kerosene lantern.
Just
And,
guys with lanterns
anyway,
trying to get it at this guy.
They got to taking pieces of paper and lighting them and throwing them up into the sail where they could see, Well, he'd run over there and stomp them out, and they'd shoot at him,
Oh, jeez.
They finally hit him, I think, 7 or 8 times. One of the fatal shot was they hit his leg and it cut the femoral artery and he bled out. Then they drug him out. But that went on. They were supposed to have been there. The plan was to get to the jail, break them out, and then you shoot this guy, kill this Ramsey guy, and take them up to Sadlersville and hang them up there. So anyway, they spent 3 hours between the time they had to. The jailer wasn't there. They had to break into the jail. That took some time. It took over an hour to break into the jail. Then they fought with him for 2 hours, to get,
It was a 2-hour fight.
3 hours. It's getting close to daylight by that time. So
he was in a box.
So they wanted, and they've got to be done with this before daylight, before anybody recognizes them,
Yeah.
This is a mob of about 150 people, big mob,
Jeez.
So anyway, they stopped along the way and realized they wasn't going to make it to where they wanted to go at their destination. So they ended up lynching them beside the track. And the people, after the lynching was over, people on the southbound train from Kentucky saw the bodies hanging from the trees as the train went by. So I know that narrows it down where this area was at, So
yeah.
I've been doing all kind of deed work and all kind of stuff, just trying to tie this all together to find out, where it happened at. So
yeah, what actually happened and how it all went down. That's interesting. All right. Well,
So,
Dewey, thank you for joining us tonight, my friend.
well, glad to be here.
And imparting all this knowledge is great. That was very captivating.
Yeah.
But you can find Dewey's books on Amazon. Look up Dewey Edwards. Several books out there. 10 Hours of Hell about the Hopkinsville Goblin incident. And
the Kelly Goblin incident.
The Kelly Goblin incident.
Yeah.
Kelly Goblin incident. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The media did its number. It's Hopkinsville.
I wish Kelly had been the ones to fire this back up, but they ain't got they ain't got the facilities. There's a big new convention center in Hopkinsville, so I guess that's why they decided to have it there. But it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a very
Most people
interesting
from
case.
Hopkinsville, a lot of them are, so it's kind of like going back home.
Well, Dewey, we look forward to having you as a special guest at the con in August.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna get me a bunch of books and stuff ordered and get a few things going. Maybe I'm gonna try to get a few more little paranormal investigation equipment built. I had been helping my wife with she got some big orders out. She did a big hat order for Joe and Jesse. Got them.
Yep.
Got that shipped out and got that to them. So
the hats looked
got
amazing.
a big order for the freshman show coming up too. So she does all their caps and all that kind of stuff too. So I've been helping her all I can. So I'm trying to build an addition onto her sewing room. That's how I ripped my arm working on it.
You got any appearances at other conventions coming up soon?
I'm gonna be at the Tennessee Wild Man, that's for sure. That's a definite.
Hell
And
yeah.
I got my rooms reserved and everything for that. So we're still considering the Gatlinburg Bigfoot convention. We're still considering that. We ain't really decided. Went there last year, had a good time, but it's doggone hot. You get up in your 70s, the heat just draws it out of you. Try to walk down the sidewalk to go down to the old store she wanted to go down there. And we not made it back. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, I was drenched when we got back. And I thought, so anyway, we're still debating on that one. Cryptid Con, we're still debating on that one too. But that would be the Tennessee Wild Man, the Gatlinburg Bigfoot, and Cryptid Con would probably be the only only 3 I'm considering this year.
Cool.
So, folks, if you're listening at home and you want to come out and meet Dewey and get that personal touch to one of his books, those are the conventions you come see him. Wow,
And if you
Tennessee
do happen to get
Wildman.
one off Amazon, you see me, I'll sign the book for you anyway.
Yeah, that too.
Awesome.
Well, Dewey, thank you for coming on tonight and talking with us. It was great getting to see you and hear all about your books. And your upcoming book seems very, very interesting as well to add to your lineup. But thank you again.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Had a good time.
Yeah, I had a great time.
All right.
But that is all our show for tonight, folks. Have a great night. And if you want to contact us or ask us any questions or topics that you'd like to hear us talk about, you can email us. Our email will be down in the description. And the Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con is coming up August 16th in McMinnville, Tennessee. Dewey Edwards is one of our special guests, like we said. So you can come out and meet him.
I'll be
along
there.
with our amazing lineup that Randy
Oh, you have
put
an
together.
amazing lineup. You do.
Thank you.
Really do.
All right,
All right, thank
folks.
you, guys.
Have a good night, everyone.
I'll see y'all later. Thank you very much.